Welcome, everyone, to my live stream on how to manifest like Bruce Lee. I hope everybody's doing well. Good evening, Casmar. Nice to see you. I hope you're having a nice week and a nice Thursday. So, in light of our Sagittarius full moon cycle that started on June 11th, we're going to talk about Bruce Lee tonight because, of course, he was a Sagittarius. So, hopefully, the wisdom that we talk about tonight from Bruce Lee will inspire you and help you to achieve your goals or what you're shooting for, because that's what Sagittarius does. It's the arrow. They see, they aim, and then they come up with another aim. So we'll talk all about him and how you can utilize his wisdom. And that should be a lot of fun. So welcome to my channel if you're new here, and welcome back if you're returning. I'm Joshua the Psychic. You can check out my website, psychicsun.com, if there's anything I can do for you. So, Bruce Lee and the Sagittarius full moon. So, we had this full moon in Sag on June 11th. And whenever we have a lunation, the energy of that lunation is active for 2 weeks, right? So, you want to lean on the side of Sagittarius for the next 2 weeks up until the 25th of June, at which point we're going to have our new moon in Cancer. But that Sagittarius full moon energy is very, very relevant. So, for instance, you want to take a more Sagittarian approach to things over the next 2 weeks up until the 25th. Come the 25th, because we're going to have then the new moon in Cancer, you want to take a more Cancerian, a more sidestepping approach, because Cancer's like the crab. So with Sagittarius, what I would do is try to wear more Sagittarian colors. You could wear fiery colors, although Sagittarius is associated more so with, say, navy and rich purples, blues, even denim. So you might want to think about wearing those colors under our Sagittarius full moon transit, our waning moon transit up until the 25th. But let's talk more about this full moon and what it was all about. So it was at 20 degrees. So you always want to check where 20 degrees of Sag is in your chart. That's where you're letting go of things. And the full moon in Sagittarius is about a climactic surge of fiery, optimistic energy. This lunation is a radiant moment of release and revelation. So it might be a time in which you're realizing, okay, this has got to change. This has got to absolutely be different than it has been. And also, it's a time of letting go. You're going to realize that there are certain things that are just over because you're getting ready for summer, right? We have the summer solstice on June 20th. So you could look at this Sagittarius moon, full moon cycle as a time of letting go of things that you don't want to bring into your next season. And of course, Sagittarius is all about truth and freedom. So it's a call to live by your truth. What's your philosophy of life? And Bruce would tell you that, you know, his ideas are just his ideas. Well, in a lot of respects, a lot of his philosophy, it certainly was pulled from other sources. He probably would admit that, but he also would have said that he's just a guide, that you're going to be able to come up with your own philosophy that works for you. But still, you can always use other people's philosophical viewpoints as a launching pad to discover your own beliefs. Hey, Haley, nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining. So, additionally, the energetic themes that we're playing with this full moon in Sagittarius: higher knowledge, adventure, and the quest for meaning. All of those things are illuminated. They say life is a journey, and really, not only is it a journey, but that's really where the fun is, because oftentimes when we get what it is that we're looking for, there's probably a sense of happiness, but there also is that sense of, oh, it's over, I got it, right? So it's that anticipation, that expectancy that really can be the most fun part of your journey. When we're dealing with the energy of Sagittarius, we're urged to embrace expansion in mind and heart as Sagittarius's influence peaks. So how can you expand? How can you go beyond what it is that you know? How can you grow out of things in a way that allows you to get bigger, right? Because that's what Sagittarius wants us to do. The energy is all about expansion and growth. So how can you move beyond your current limitations, and how can you express yourself in ways that allow you to take up more space, right? Taking up more space in the world and allowing yourself to see things from a higher vantage point. So with Sagittarius, it's the house of the higher mind. So they're able to get this bird's eye view of things. And that's why most oftentimes Sagittarians don't take things very personally. They see things from this higher vantage point. And that's what makes them usually just the coolest people to be around, really. They're very funny. They're very upbeat. They're always up for a good time, oftentimes too much of a good time, but they have that perspective that allows them to not take things so seriously, right? What is this, Haley? Oh, we have some good news from Haley. I was energetic today, gave my first presentation. Everyone raved. I am not surprised in the slightest. Well, congratulations, Haley. I'm sure that your next presentation will be even better. Thanks for sharing that. So we are in this energy and it's wonderful, and we get this big picture balance. So Sagittarius is the opposite of Gemini, and the full moon, of course, is when the sun is in the opposite sign of the moon. And the opposite the sun in Gemini, the full moon in Sagittarius, asks us to synthesize facts, Gemini, with wisdom, which is Sagittarius, to let go of limiting beliefs, and to aim our arrows toward inspiring new horizons. So Gemini is all about the facts, the details. It's very, very, very logical. It's ruled by Mercury. And that's one of the reasons why you might see Sagittarius and Gemini as opposite, because Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is all about logic. And Sagittarius is often about faith. And it is about faith in the unseen, that sense of like, it's all going to work out. Everything's going to be fine. Whereas the Gemini Mercury might be a matter of saying, well, how could this possibly be fine? We have this fact and this fact, and this is going to be terrible. Well, Sagittarius can see beyond the facts and the logic and help lead us toward a brighter day with that faith. And it's all about making sure that you're never forgetting that the next day, the next moment, the next hour, the next year, the next decade can be better. Sagittarius is pathologically optimistic. Of course, you have to look at the whole chart, but as a sign, they are very, very optimistic people because they know it works. I mean, they are later on in the astrological wheel, meaning they're more evolved than the 8 signs preceding them, right? So it's a very, very optimistic energy. So Bruce Lee was a Sagittarius, indeed, but he also had some other aspects in his chart that are quite interesting. So he was a double Sagittarius. So when we say double Sagittarius or double this sign or double that sign, what that means is that the person's big 3, 2 of those big 3 are in Sagittarius. So for Bruce, he had his sun in Sagittarius, his rising in Sagittarius, and his moon was in Scorpio, which we're going to talk about. I think he was very scorpionic for Sagittarius. And the ruler of his chart, Jupiter, because he's a Sag rising or was a Sag rising, is Taurus. So he's also very, very earthy. But with his sun and ascendant in Sag, he was a visionary, Sagittarius, with a global mindset, Sagittarius, and spiritual insight because his sun was in the 12th house. That actually makes him a very, very psychic, very intuitive Sagittarius. And of course, he had a very adventurous approach to life. He actually traveled a lot from Hong Kong back to the States, Hong Kong back to the States, because he had trouble getting work as an actor in the United States. And then he made a deal with these producers in Hong Kong. And yeah, he hit the mark there, that's for sure. So also, in addition to his bright Sagittarian planets, Bruce had a Scorpio moon and a stellium in Scorpio, which is 3 or more planets. So he had his moon in Scorpio, he had his Mercury in Scorpio, he had his Venus in Scorpio, and his Mars in Scorpio. These are very personal planets. So although he was a double Sagittarius, because that sun in Sagittarius is in the 12th house. Some of his Sagittarian nature was actually hidden, not just from himself, but from other people, making more of that Scorpio energy more prominent. Granted, he had a Sagittarius ascendant, so people meet him on a first impression basis. They may have seen that Sagittarius, but again, that Scorpio is really, really strong. And the Scorpio that he had in his chart bestowed him with passion, depth, and transformative drive, and inner intensity behind that Sagittarian optimism. Now, additionally, Bruce also had very strong Taurus in his chart. Remember, because he was a Sagittarius rising, that makes Jupiter the ruler of his chart, and Jupiter in his chart was in the sign of Taurus. So steady Taurus grounded him with patience and perseverance. And as Jupiter and Taurus gave him prudence and persistence, balancing that fiery spirit. And also, Taurus is the sign of the teacher. Sagittarians are great teachers too, but Taurus is the sign of the teacher. They're very, very good at teaching. And Taurus is very connected to their bodies. And, well, Bruce was very, very connected to his body, right? That mind-body connection, you can see that. And I also think that his discipline was probably very, very Taurus, although Scorpio is extremely disciplined too when they want something. So when we look at actually his chart, ignore the yellow for the time being, the yellow cross. I'll talk to you about that in a second. But just to show you, you get 6 degrees over here, right at the start of the chart. That's his Sagittarius ascendant. And then at 5 degrees where that sun is, that's his Sagittarius sun. And then look at all that Scorpio in the 11th house. You got the Mercury, you got Mercury, you got the moon, you got Mars, and you got Venus. And they're all fairly close. At least that moon and Mercury are close to each other. And so is that Mars and Venus. And that's all in the 11th house of love that you receive from others. The 11th house is about blessings that you get. And with all that Scorpio in his chart, indicative of the people, the masses, people are very intense about Bruce Lee. Like, he's made quite an impact on many, many people. Many people, there are so many movies, especially in the 80s, of these amateur martial artists, and they're channeling Bruce Lee, or Bruce Lee is visiting them in their garages while they're working out and trying to get in shape, right? So his fans, 11th house, are very, very intense. And he also had a very scorpionic approach, let's say, to his hopes, dreams, wishes, and ideals, right? He was very, very intent on being very successful and to a certain extent being famous, which we'll talk about in terms of his quotations. You'll see quotations, hear quotations about Bruce that do speak about that 11th house. So he also, opposite that 11th house is the 5th house, and he had Jupiter and Saturn very close, with only 2 degrees between them, conjunct in Taurus. Now that's really interesting because Jupiter is all about expansion and Saturn is all about contraction. And if you know anything about Bruce Lee, well, that was really key for him in terms of his martial arts. Sometimes you're going to expand and sometimes you're going to contract. You're going to expand when you're hitting somebody, and you're going to contract when they're trying to hit you. And also, if you notice this yellow here, we have a T-square. So you get 2 planets that are, or more planets that are in opposition. You could say that his Mars and his Venus are in opposition to his Jupiter and his Saturn. And then you have Pluto over here that are squaring both. You have Pluto squaring his Venus and his Mars, as well as his Saturn and his Jupiter. So the planet that's squaring both of these in this T-square is called the focal planet. And it's the release point, or the key to resolving the tension between this opposition. So what did Bruce do in order to resolve the tension? Well, he transformed, because you get that Pluto energy. So it was all about that level of intensity, and to a certain extent, a volcanic sense of power with Pluto, and it's Pluto and Leo. Now, what's interesting about Bruce's chart, if you notice, every place where you have the numbers in red, that means that the planet is retrograde, or the point is retrograde. So Pluto is retrograde, Chiron, was retrograde, Uranus was retrograde, Saturn was retrograde, Jupiter is retrograde, and the nodes, they're usually retrograde. So the thing is that what you got to remember, if you have a lot of retrograde planets in your chart, you certainly can do a lot with them, irrespective of whether or not you have retrograde planets. You can still do a lot with them because Bruce certainly did, right? So yeah, we see that with this chart, which is pretty cool. So what we're going to do is go through every single sign, and we're going to talk about where every single sign has Sagittarius in your chart. So this is going to be relevant for you, not just for the Sagittarius full moon, but really whenever you're thinking about Sagittarius in conjunction to you, or whenever we have a new moon in Sag, right? So first, of course, we're going to start with Aries. So for Aries, Sagittarius hits your 9th house. That's the house that Sagittarius actually rules. So Sagittarius ignites your zone of expansion and learning, and it's where you crave adventure, higher knowledge, or a bold vision. So with Sagittarius in your 9th house, Aries, you're a lifelong seeker of truth, wisdom, and big picture thinking. You may find meaning through travel, education, or spiritual exploration. You may be drawn toward foreign cultures, language, and even global teaching. And you probably believe that life is a journey of expansion, not just mentally, but also spiritually. Your Bruce Lee quote that is relevant: there are no limits, there are only plateaus, and you must not stay there, you must go beyond them. So if you embrace this mindset, you'll be breaking free of self-imposed beliefs. So if you think about it, with this quote, Bruce is saying that things go on to infinity. There's no ceiling when it comes to your happiness. There's no ceiling when it comes to your wealth. There's no ceiling that comes to your joy, right? It goes on forever, for infinity. And if you can think of yourself as being infinite, going beyond the moon, going beyond the stars, realizing that you are limitless, you're going to be able to do so much more in this lifetime because you're not putting confines on your potential. You're allowing yourself to go beyond what it is that you even see. And you could actually use this law of attraction tip that your beliefs shape your reality, and that by adopting a limitless outlook, you're going to attract bigger opportunities and exciting experiences. So keep that in mind, that if you see yourself as limitless, you're going to go beyond your current limits. And if you reach a plateau, remember, that's not a limit. It just means that you got to shake things up, right? And I mean, think of like when we're trying to lose weight, right? You will lose a few pounds and then you'll just plateau. You just stop and you stop losing weight. Okay, well, maybe your body got used to the routines you were doing, or your body got used to the diet that you want. And sometimes when that happens, you got to shake things up. And that can be used metaphorically for anything. Like when we reach that height of payment and we're thinking, oh, we're not going to be able to make more money in this position. Well, you got to go beyond that position, right? You got to get another job. You got to do something to expand and grow. So I hope that's helpful, Aries. So for Taurus, whenever we have Sagittarius prominent for you, Taurus, in the skies, well, it's a little bit intense because Sagittarius hits your 8th house. It's the house of transformation and inner power. So whenever we have a Sagittarius transit, like we're under now, if you're catching this live, for Taurus, it's going to activate deep shifts around intimacy, shared resources, and emotional growth. So whenever we have a Sagittarius lunation, Taurus, you're asked to face change with courage and clarity. What's cool, actually, for Taurus is that with Sagittarius in your 8th house, you might view transformation as a spiritual or philosophical process, which is going to help you to take the pressure off. So if you're going through a death or a rebirth, you might be able to look at it through a philosophical lens. Okay, well, there are no bad experiences, or there are no bad relationships, just some that last longer than others. That's a very Sagittarian philosophy. You may experience faith-building experiences through emotional crises. Taurus does hold on to things to very, very strongly, right? They're not really big fans of change. But when you actually make a change, Taurus, well, it can actually help you to expand in quite a great way, quite a big way. And you may be drawn to exploring the mysteries of life, metaphysics, and the occult. So when you go into those realms, Taurus, you might find yourself really expanding and growing. The 8th house is challenging, right? It's a very, very sensitive house. It has to do with your deep psychological psychological underpinnings, what makes you tick. And whenever you have a 8th house transit, usually certain things happen to really make you understand where you're coming from emotionally and psychologically. But there's strength in that fire. So a Bruce Lee quote for you is, do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. So strength lies in acceptance, not avoidance. So you're going to be able to transform through power and not fear. So you want to realize that whenever you are going through a difficult patch or whenever you're having to let go of something, keep in the back of your mind that you're going to expand and you're going to grow. And really, Sagittarius, optimism, happiness, you're going to be happier. So just keep that in mind. A law of attraction tip for you, Taurus: when you embrace your inner resilience, you attract healing, empowerment, and deep trust in life's process. So when you're going through a change, Taurus, instead of focusing on the difficulty of this change and how you're going to be disrupting the status quo, etc., embrace your inner resilience and know that whatever you're going through is only going to help you to expand and grow in the long haul. So I hope that's helpful. So Gemini, Sagittarius, of course, hits your 7th house because it's your opposite sign. So it stirs growth whenever we have a Sagittarius transit for you, Gemini. It stirs growth in your one-on-one relationships. You're learning through other people. You discover who you are in reflection, right? So you can't be you unless I am being me, or your partner is being him, right? You need another in order to be you, right? And with Sagittarius in your 7th house, you're very Sagittarius, perhaps when it comes to your relationships, or you attract rather Sagittarian individuals, partners who are free-spirited, worldly, idealistic. Sagittarians are notorious wanderers. It's really hard to keep a Sagittarius tied down. And once a Sagittarius is tied down, quite frankly, they're not as happy as they had been when they were single. You got to look at the whole chart. I mean, if a Sagittarius has strong Taurus in their chart, they're going to have more traditional mores, right? But Sagittarius is the wanderer, and it's all about exploration. So when you put a ring on it for a Sagittarius, it kind of takes the wind out of their sails. Okay, is this it? Am I going to have to be waking up to this person for the rest of my life? I mean, again, if you are with a Sagittarius or you're a Gemini and your partners are rather Sagittarian, you're going to have to keep things very interesting. Now, what's funny is that Sagittarius may be a wanderer, but Gemini is a flirt. And Gemini has trouble also, I think, committing. I mean, once they commit, they can be fine. They can wander or rove like Sagittarius. But I would say that for Gemini, you got to make sure that you keep things interesting. You're responsible for 50% of the relationship. So you got to make sure that you're keeping things open and that you're not keeping things exciting through conflict, because that is a fiery energy. That's why, sex and adventure and passion and creativity is so important in relationships. Otherwise, you might be getting into fights so you can experience that fire. And there's much better ways to experience fire. Your relationships, you're probably going to need freedom and honesty. And your partnerships will probably feel best when there's a shared journey of learning, going on adventures with your partner, right? So a cool Bruce Lee quote. This is one of my favorite quotes from him. He said, love is like a friendship caught on fire. It becomes as coals, deep burning and unquenchable. So he's saying here that true connection evolves and deepens with time and presence. And you could also say that Bruce believed in a way that love, the cornerstone of a relationship, a romantic relationship, is friendship. And I think that's fair to say that the cornerstone of any relationship, be it a business partnership, be it, somebody that you have had in your life for a long time, like a best friend or even a lover, or especially a lover, you need that friendship cornerstone. So a law of attraction tip for you, Gemini: by showing up authentically in your partnerships, you attract love that's not only passionate, but enduring. Because the more you can show up authentically, Gemini, the easier it's going to be for somebody to reflect that authenticity back to you, right? If you're not showing up authentically in your relationships, you're going to attract partners that are not showing you their full selves. And we all know how terrible that can be. Who are you? Who are you? Who is this person that I was with? You're so different than I thought. You don't want there to be shocks in your relationship. So the more authentically you can show up in your relationships, Gemini, the easier it's going to be for an authentic partner to come to you. And you're going to have a love that is very authentic and that will survive the test of time. So I hope that's helpful, Gemini. So Cancer, you have Sagittarius in your 6th house. So that 6th house is all about your health, your habits, your daily regime, the nuts and bolts of your day-to-day operations, right? So you have a philosophical approach when it comes to health, perhaps when it comes to work, maybe even your habits or your regime. So Sagittarius brings wisdom to these areas of your life. And your day-to-day lifestyle is where you can really thrive with purpose-driven structure and conscious care. So it's Sagittarius in your house of work, health, and daily routines. You probably bring enthusiasm and a vision to your everyday tasks and service. And there might be a philosophical slant. Well, of course, I'm going to exercise every day because, well, it makes me happy. And because it makes me happy, I'm going to attract new things that are also going to make me happy, or gives me an optimistic disposition or whatever. And that is going to be good to live life through that energy. So you're going to have a philosophical approach to your day-to-day lifestyle. You may need freedom in your work, in your day-to-day life, and also meaning. You can't just do a job. Like, it has to have some kind of philosophical meaning for you. You might thrive in jobs that involve teaching or publishing or travel or even wellness. And you probably need a variety. Variety is the spice of life for you, I would say, Cancer, because Sagittarius can get bored very easily and they like adventure. And you also might be a lifelong student of the mind-body connection. And you can take a more philosophical approach to everything you do on a day-to-day basis. So Bruce Lee said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." So mastery lives in meaningful repetition. So what this is saying is that what we do day in and day out, those habits that we have, that prudence, that practicality, that discipline, that shows up. And really, what we have to show for ourselves at the end of time, right? Our legacy, in a lot of respects, it has to do with what we do day in and day out. And if you can practice a vibration that you want. Say you want to be madly in love and really live happily ever after. Well, Bruce might say you got to practice that vibration daily. Like every day, you got to practice that vibration. How will your body feel when you're living the dream? How will you move differently? How will you experience yourself differently? And Bruce would say you got to practice that 10,000 times, right? In order to make it a reality. So remember too, that as long as you're moving closer to your goal daily, that 1%, all you need to do is 1% more, say every week or every day, and you're going to be on track. You're going to hit your marks. A law of attraction tip for you, Cancer: small daily choices hold major power. If you can make small daily choices every day, your life will change. When your habits align with your goals, the universe meets you halfway. And it's also an energetic thing, right? If you're practicing vibration on a day-to-day basis, well, it's going to become part of your daily life, and therefore it's going to become your life, right? So Sagittarius in the 6th house is pretty cool for you, Cancer. So for Leo, fellow fire sign Leo, Sagittarius is in your 5th house. So you experience that Sagittarius energy when it comes to creativity and romance and joy. You might find yourself just naturally falling in love with a Sagittarian. They're pretty easy to fall in love with. Very easy to fall in love with because they're so fun. They're better to fall in love with than to partner with, to be honest with you. Just because, like we said, they can be wanderers. But Sagittarius energizes your creative spark. Where Sagittarius is in your chart is where you play and have passion, and where self-expression becomes your guiding light. Also, with that Sagittarius on the 5th house, you express joy most likely through big, bold, adventurous creativity. You want grand creative projects, and you probably love travel, play, and spontaneous exploration. You're probably going to attract love and attention through being very Sagittarian in your nature. So that's through humor, storytelling. Sagittarians are great storytellers. Granted, they're very prone to exaggeration. And you probably have a philosophical flair to your storytelling. You may create best when you're free to follow your inspiration. So when it comes to love and romance and joy, you want expansion. You want freedom. You probably philosophically believe that life is made for joy, that life's a buffet and most people are starving to death. So why not have it all, right? And it's all about authenticity and being your true self, right? And unabashedly, right? Unapologetically yourself. So a Bruce Lee quote for you, Leo, for your 5th house that's ruled by Sagittarius: always be yourself, express yourself, have faith in yourself. So your originality is your greatest magnet. Don't dim your light. Don't dim your authenticity. So law of attraction tip for you: when you express yourself with heart and joy, you attract opportunities, love, and recognition that reflect your light. So think of it this way. We are constantly projecting things, right? We're thinking things. So think about the new moon, right? The new moon comes, it's a tabula rasa, you get a blank slate. If you're expressing yourself authentically and being your true self and expressing yourself as much as possible, when that full moon gets bigger, that's going to be you. It's going to reflect back what you've put into it. So everything in life, you're going to get back what you put in. So the more you can be authentic, the more you can give of yourself, very generously give of yourself. And that's a key word for Leo. Leo's extremely generous people. But when you're giving of yourself and you're being authentic and you're showing up and saying, this is who I am authentically, then what's going to happen is the universe is going to reflect back to you what is authentically good for you, what is authentic for you, the best partners, the best jobs, the best opportunities. But it starts with you expressing yourself most authentically. So I hope that's helpful for you, Leo. So for Virgo, Sagittarius hits your 4th house. So your home life may have been very, very, very fast and very, very direct. And maybe it was optimistic in some respects, right? Or there may have been travel involved, or maybe you move your home far away from where you've born, right? Because that's a 4th house, has to do with your home, your family, and your foundation. It also has to do with your emotional security. So Sagittarius awakens truth in your inner life, right? The 4th house has to do with your home and family, and really your emotional makeup. Whenever we have a Sagittarius transit for you, you're probably going to have an opportunity to examine your inherited beliefs and find out what you truly need in order to feel grounded. I would say, especially with the full moon, you're going to have an opportunity to say, you know what? This is heavy. This isn't mine. As my brother always says, it's your parents' fault the way you turn out. It's your fault if you stay that way. And that really is key to the fourth house, right? And Bruce Lee seemed to think the same. He wrote, or he said, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. So again, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. So your emotional foundation, where you're coming from, should reflect your truth, not your past, right? So we've inherited certain things from our home life growing up, right? How we treat our animals or our kids, if we have kids, is very reminiscent of how you were treated as a child, right? You'll see that if you have a pet or a child, and you'll have these moments of, oh my God, I'm my father. Oh my God, I'm my mother. So remember that you are a sponge those first 7 years of your life, even before that, right? If you're in your mother's womb, right? So remember that your emotional truth at the end of the day is going to be what you decided to be. And it's what you had gleaned from your backstory. So your backstory can help you determine what your life is about. In fact, for a lot of us, our emotional backstory or our emotional foundation, where we're coming from, provides the contrast to let us know, oh, okay, I don't want this, I want this. So how you experience life growing up could help you determine what you do not want to experience, and therefore what you do want to experience. So don't feel like you're tied to your past. Use it to inform your ideal future. A law of attraction tip for you, Virgo: as you clear emotional clutter and claim your inner space, you attract stability, safety, and support that aligns with your soul. So the more you can let go of things, emotional clutter, anything that feels heavy is not yours. You're carrying somebody else's baggage, and it's going to be up to you to claim your inner peace. Nobody really is probably going to say, oh, you know what, Virgo, you need to let go of this. This is heavy. You know, your parents gave you this ideology. It doesn't really serve you, or you got this complex, and it's not you. You got to let go of it. You got to be the one that says, oh, okay, I was given a complex. Do I want to keep this complex, or do I want to let it go? And by claiming that inner peace for yourself, you're going to attract more stability, safety, and support that aligns with your soul, with who you really want to be. So I hope that's helpful, Virgo. So for Libra, Sagittarius hits your third house. That makes a lot of sense, since Libras are great communicators. They're great lawyers. And, well, Sagittarius is aligned with law, just as Libra is, right? So you're a really great communicator, Libra, with that Sagittarius. Again, you might look at things from a big picture perspective in a lot of respects, but with your third house having to do with Sagittarius, it inspires your bold ideas and meaningful dialogue. And that's why I think, Libra is a sign of emotional detachment. Conversations with Libra can be very good, and they always know when to sort of back off and say, you know what, or back up rather, and say, you know what are we really playing with here? Like, in the grand scheme of things, what does this mean, right? So you have a very philosophical approach to your communications, Libra. You learn, teach, and expand in your day-to-day lifestyle, most likely, with the third house ruled by Sagittarius. Most likely, Libra, with third house Sag, you communicate with optimism, humor, and a philosophical flair. You're probably a natural storyteller, teacher, or speaker. Curious minds are drawn to learning, writing, and ideas that expand your understanding. And you probably really feel energized when you immerse yourself in new places or lively, rich environments. So Libra can be very adventuresome and very curious. So the curiosity factor, that's really what is key to the third house. And I love this quote from Bruce in regard to this. A wise man can learn more from a foolish question than a fool can learn from a wise answer. A wise man can learn more from a foolish question than a fool can learn from a wise answer. So stay open, stay curious. Wisdom often arrives disguised. Sometimes we can be very judgy, especially Libra. And it can be a matter of, oh, this person's a moron. They don't know what they're talking about. But if you stay curious and you listen, you might learn something. Granted, it might not be from this person. You might learn from their foolishness, or, there might be hidden meaning in what people say. So I would say with this, don't be so quick to judge or dismiss what other people are saying, because even the people that you know are idiots, they actually might be able to teach you something. Maybe they teach you something through their folly, or maybe within their folly is actually some truth. So stay curious, and that is going to make you even more likable than you already are, right? Because you're listening to people, and instead of judging, you're curious. It's like, oh, it's interesting that that person sees things that way. So stay open and curious. And remember, when you're communicating, that your energy of enthusiasm can really spark new conversations that lead to great changes. So the energy behind your words matter. When your thoughts and conversations reflect curiosity and clarity, insight flows to meet you. So when we are open, right? Remember, what we put into something is what we get out of it. So the more open we are in our conversations, the more open we are to receiving insight or those gold nuggets of wisdom, etc. So remember, whatever we put out is what we get back. So if you can stay curious in your conversations, you're going to be opening yourself up to more people giving you ideas or invitations, etc. So I hope that's helpful, Libra. So Scorpio, Sagittarius hits your second house of values, self-worth, and income. And I think that's why Scorpio is pretty good at making money, because they know what they got to do. They're very Sagittarius. Okay, this is what I need to make. How am I going to do it? Okay, boom, do it. Done. Okay, what's next, right? So you're very, very speedy. I also would say Scorpios can be very wealthy. I think Scorpio, they have a lot of millionaires, billionaires that are Scorpios. Also Libra actually can, I believe Libra told me this, so I don't know how true it is, but they said that more millionaires are Libras than any other sign. It could be true. I'll have to figure that out. But I know that Scorpio is definitely, they can manifest a lot of money, and that is probably because Sagittarius is in their second house, and Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So Sagittarius lights up your financial world and your relationship with your worth, with your self-worth. This is where abundance begins with belief. So when you are recognizing how valuable you are, just because you exist, that means that you're a part of existence, that you're really valuable. Well, why not get as much out of that value as possible and be as rich as possible? And really, for you, Scorpio, because Sagittarius rules your second house, you value freedom, you value growth, and you value truth. And capital T, truth, is really key for Scorpio. Scorpio, if they can't talk, if they can't say something, if they're in a situation in which it's hard to be honest, they'll be silent, because it literally pains them oftentimes to lie, because they're just too honest. Like if you see a Scorpio that doesn't like somebody, they're not going to be able to really fake it unless a lot is on the line. Like if a lot is on the line, I guess they could lie. But most times they really can't. They don't have it in them. They're just too honest, and they feel things too deeply. They feel their truth too deeply to hide it. It's too much energy, and it probably wouldn't work anyway, right? Scorpio may earn money through traveling, teaching, writing, or any spiritual activity, of course. And you're going to find self-worth by living through your principles and your purpose. And you're probably very optimistic about your resources. You probably trust the universe to provide for you. And you probably are, and if you're not, you'll be moving toward this, but recognizing your very individualistic sense of self-worth. Bruce Lee said, "I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine." So your value, Bruce is saying here, is self-defined, and you got to live from that place. What is successful for me, what I say is successful, you might think that's not successful at all, right? So success, it's a very, very individualistic policy, right? And there are people in the world that might be extremely successful. They have everything. They have the job, the 2.5 children, the white picket fence. And there are some people, they wouldn't change places with them for 5 seconds. Not at all. So you got to determine what your values are. And that's a second house thing. And when you're living in accordance to your values, you're going to be happy. And that's going to make you valuable, right? The more aligned you are with your value and the more you can fulfill your value, well, the more worthy you're going to feel, the more self-worth you're going to have. And of course, the happier you're going to be. Because like, that's all the happiness is, right? It's value fulfillment. So I would say for Scorpio, it's really important to find out what you're really intense about. And if you've gone through some changes in your life, you might want to think and say, okay, well, what do I value at this point in my life? Although Scorpio probably knows where they stand at every moment of every time. They're very, very aware of their emotions, right? So keep that in mind in terms of your values. Find out what matters most to you. And a law of attraction tip: when you know your worth and act accordingly, you attract people, the income, and the respect that match your vibration. So always know how valuable you are. Always know what you bring to the table, and never, ever, ever be afraid to eat alone. Because if you're not worth the wooing, you're not worth the winning. And remember that, not just in terms of relationships, but also in terms of jobs or anything, right? I hope that's helpful for you, Scorpio. And Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, this is you. Your first house is in Sag. If you're a Sag or a Sagittarius rising, if you're a Sagittarius, well, your first solar house is Sagittarius. And for you, it's all about becoming the vision, right? Like, how can you be who you aspire to be? That's a key phrase for Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is your first house, your Sag rising. It also is your solar first house if you're a Sagittarius. So it's your house of identity and direction. That rising sign says, okay, this is my approach. This is how I need to approach things. And as a Sagittarius or a Sagittarius rising, your approach is going to be very, very optimistic. How can this work out perfectly? How can this be amazing? Right? That's really key. So with Sagittarius ruling your identity, your journey is one of truth, adventure, and becoming who you believe yourself to be. Who do you believe you are? Or, according to Nietzsche, who you want to be is who you really are, right? Because it's constantly changing. We're constantly making ourselves up as we go along. So if you can create a vision that really excites you, Sagittarius, follow that vision. And I think also for, all of us, what's really key is with Sagittarius, when we're talking about Sagittarius, we're often talking about the higher mind. So it's not that part of us that is, taking things personally and thinks it's all about us. We're seeing things oftentimes when we're dealing with Sagittarius energy from that higher vantage point. Like, okay, well, I can't take this personally. It doesn't really matter. Nothing's that important. Nothing's really serious is going on here. When we allow ourselves to turn our day-to-day situations over to the higher mind and look at it from this different perspective, a more, I won't say detached, but more worldly perspective from a higher vantage point, everything becomes so much easier because you're not feeling like everything is affecting you or everything is a personal thing, right? So we all want to be more Sagittarius in our approach, in the sense of looking at things from a higher vantage point, not taking things so seriously, and, looking on the brighter side of life, right? So for you, Sagittarius, a Bruce Lee quote, and these are not all Bruce Lee quotes. I mean, he said them, but they're not all Bruce Lee quotes, of course. You probably noticed that. But as you think, so shall you become. So your self-image is not just an idea, it's your trajectory. Because remember, in law of attraction, we don't get what we want, we get who we subconsciously believe that we are, or we get what we subconsciously believe we are a match to, or we get what we subconsciously believe that we deserve. So I always say first house first. Like, the most important thing that you can do is change your identity and make sure that it's aligned with your ideals, right? If you want X, Y, and B, you got to be that person that, of course, is going to attract. It's a matter of course. You're naturally going to attract what it is that you want because you're a vibrational match to it. That's why creating that vision and acting like that person you want to be, and training the body, the unconscious mind, to feel like you'll feel when you have what it is that you want is really key. So, law of attraction tip for you, Sag: align your thoughts with the version of you that already exists in your highest vision, right? So what version of you is living your best life? Can you imagine it? Can you visualize that you that is living your happiest, best life? And if you can, well, you're in a really good spot, and you should live from that place, and life is going to follow. Remember, you're the path. So keep your visions alive. I think, Sagittarius as a sign, yeah, they are incredibly optimistic, but the Sagittarian plight is that they can think too much because they're very, very intelligent, and every gift is a curse, right? So when you think too much, what happens is you lose choice, and then they can get caught up, and they can limit their potential if they're caught up in the minutia, right? So for all of us, we want to see things from a broader perspective. And whenever we have a lot of Sagittarius stuff going on in the sky, we may at times overthink things, right? Because there's so many different options. So don't think too much. Get aligned with that version of you that is living their best life, and live from that vision. You could, whenever you have decisions to make, turn it over to that higher version of yourself, right? And that will help you to become more like it. I hope that's helpful, Sagittarius. So for you, Capricorn, Sagittarius falls in your 12th house. So your dreams, I think this is really interesting about Capricorn. Well, Capricorn's dreams can be rather adventuresome, right? You might not think so because they're so prudent at times. And so, well, Capricorn can be a little bit stodgy, right? They can be a little bit conservative, but their dream life is pretty expansive, right? So for you, Capricorn, Sagittarius rules your 12th house of spirituality, of reincarnation. In fact, if you're a Capricorn rising and you have Sagittarius in your 12th house, and maybe even if you're a Capricorn, you probably have a lot of karma with Sagittarians. So if you have a lot of Sagittarians in your life, you probably had a past life with them. That makes things interesting, doesn't it? Right? So Sagittarius brings faith to the unseen parts of your life. You're learning what you can trust and what you can't control. Lifelong lessons, right? You probably hold spiritual beliefs or spiritual insights close to your chest. I know that out of all the signs of the zodiac, Capricorn, especially in regard to astrology, they usually follow astrology, but they don't let other people know about it because they don't want to be perceived as woo-woo or nuts, right? So your social life, you're drawn to exploring faith, philosophy, and metaphysics privately. You're probably going to be very private in regard to those realms. You may find peace through nature, solitude, or contemplative practices. Your dreams, like we said, may be vivid or symbolic of life's larger truths. And you probably really, at least on a subconscious level, need freedom to balance that outer responsibility. You might be able to connect with your spiritual side through reflection, travel, or even selfless service, which is a 12th house thing. The 12th house is that subconscious part of ourselves. It's sleep. It's the paradigms that we have. It's the stuff that's brewing in the back of our minds. And because the subconscious is so important in creating our own reality, it's important that you really allow yourself to focus on those visions that are very expansive and very optimistic and just make you feel like you're living the dream. A Bruce Lee quote for you is, empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. Be water, my friend. So although Capricorn is all about structure, the balance of that is formlessness. In order to create what it is that you want to create, you got to start with that formlessness, right? You got to allow yourself to release structure in some respects and allow yourself to at times just let go and surrender. And in that surrender, you might find that what you've been looking for has been yours all along. As soon as you give up control, you realize that there is this inner control that runs the show that actually might be on your side. Imagine, because you're creating your own reality. You may have created things, Capricorn, that you didn't realize. You may have already created that structure. And instead of being a control freak about it, it might be a matter of all you need to do is let go a little bit, to have a little faith, to have trust. I would say Capricorn can be very much on top of things, right? They're very responsible, but there's also that balance of flow with that control. And I would say that for Capricorn, it's really, really important to balance that structuring side of your personality, that side that is very responsible and keeps things on track. You got to balance that with the spirit life, that formlessness, because there might be a structure, in fact, that you can create that is actually better for you when you allow yourself to let spirit help you, right? Like, we don't know what we don't know, and the universe is always going to know more than us. So allow yourself to empty your mind, be formless, be shapeless like water as much as possible. At least at nighttime before you're going to sleep, or at least once during the day when you meditate, etc. So a law of attraction tip for you, Capricorn: the more you allow, the more arrives. The more you allow, the more arrives. So let go of needing answers, and they're going to come to you when you're ready to receive, or anything. Right? Like if you're looking for a new job, know that what is for you is not going to pass you by. If you're looking for love, know that what is for you is not going to pass you by. So have that faith, dissolve those boundaries in an area of your life, maybe your private life, right? You got to allow yourself to release that control, because so much has already been done. You may have created stuff that you didn't even realize you created. So for Aquarius, Sagittarius and Aquarius get along so well. They really do. So you want to dream for the collective, ideally, because the Sagittarius for you, Aquarius, rules your 11th house of hopes, dreams, wishes, goals, friends. You probably have a lot of friends that are Sagittarians. And you probably have dreams that are quite big, right? With Sagittarius ruling your 11th house. So Sagittarius helps you to think bigger than the individual. Sagittarius, where Sagittarius is in your chart, it's where you can dream of what's possible for everyone, not just you. And honestly, that is like the easiest way to manifest, is when you're manifesting for other people, because the universe really loves selflessness. So if you have big dreams and goals, and this is for everyone, all of these tips are really for everyone, but for Aquarius in particular, and they kind of know this most likely, but if you have big dreams and goals and they're for the collective, you have all the collective helping you achieve those big dreams and goals. So it's not a matter of, Well, I want to be a big fat movie star. Okay, well, great. That's good for your ego. But, oh, if you're a big fat movie star, well, then you'll be able to inspire other people to become big fat movie stars. Or it could be a matter of, I want to be a billionaire. Okay, well, that's great. And you probably want your house, but think of all the people that are poor that you can feed, or think of all the people who you can help, right? And make their lives just so much more wonderful with all of your billions, right? So get other people in on your goals. Don't make it about you, make it about the collective, and you're going to have a lot easier time manifesting, right? Anything that you want, you can actually say theoretically that if you want it, it's who you are, and being who you are is being authentic, and being authentic is being of service. So if you want something, whatever it may be, find out how that benefits other people. How does that benefit your friends? How does that benefit the world at large? Because then all of a sudden you get other people involved. It's not just you that wants the big house, and you have all this energy to play with. So that's a nice little trick for everybody. So for Bruce Lee said, under the sky, under the heavens, there is but one family. So when you serve the whole world, Aquarius, you uplift yourself in the process. And you get a lot of help, right? Because you're tapping into the collective, and you're allowing that collective to help you help other people, right? And it comes full circle. So a law of attraction tip for you, Aquarius: align your personal goals with the collective good. In doing so, you magnetize support, collaborators, and future forward ideas. So be sure to do that, right? Think about the other people in your life, how you can help them, how you're achieving your ideals, and how your objectives helps everybody else. And you'll find your manifestations are a lot easier when you dream for the collective. And last but never least, my fishies. So for Pisces, Sagittarius, of course, hits your 10th house of career, purpose, and your reputation, how the world sees you. So people see you as a Sag oftentimes, especially by virtue of what you do. You're also ruled by Jupiter, or traditionally ruled by Jupiter. Contemporary, your contemporary ruler is Neptune, but traditionally you're ruled by Jupiter, just like Sagittarius. So Sagittarius infuses your career with philosophical meaning. You're here on this planet to lead with integrity and to leave behind something timeless. What will survive the test of time? What do you have to contribute, right? And how might it change other people's philosophy? Because if you change your philosophy, you change your life philosophy, your life is going to certainly change. So with the 10th house being ruled by Sagittarius for you Pisces, you might seek a career that reflects truth, growth, and inspiration. You may work in teaching, publishing, spirituality, or even travel. Like a travel agent, right? Or stewardess, perhaps, right? Your public image is philosophical, adventurous, or expansive, and you tend to feel free and purpose-driven on your professional path, or you're going to want to feel free and purposeful in your professional life. And you probably want to leave behind a meaningful, wisdom-based legacy. Bruce Lee said, the key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering. So what do you want to do in this world that you want to look back on and say, wow, that was great, or I was really great for doing this, or I made the world a better place because I did this, right? So you want to build something meaningful, Pisces, in your life. That's your highest success. And I think you'll be able to do it with that Sagittarius energy. I think the big thing with Sagittarius on the 10th house, you probably have a lot of options, Pisces, when it comes to creating a meaningful career because you are so talented, right? So it might be tough for you to decide, okay, well, this is what I want to be known for, because there's so many different options. But once you determine how you can give the most and provide the most value, it should be pretty easy. A law of attraction tip for you: when your work is driven by passion and service, not ego, you attract recognition, fulfillment, and lasting impact. So for a lot of us, there may be this dream that we had professionally that might actually, without us really realizing it, might be for our ego. It might not be what we're called to do. What we're called to do and what we're really best at might not be what is most ego gratifying, right? We might want certain things for our ego that really we might not be that good at, right? So it's a matter of determining what your natural gifts are and what is most authentic for you. Because if you're going after a career for your ego, you're not being authentic. You want to go after something that is truly you and that is most natural for you, because then you're living your true soul's purpose, and then you're going to make the most gains, and then you're going to make the biggest contribution. So allow yourself to follow your excitement. Don't do what you think you should do, what you think you might be cool. Do what is most natural for you. And if you can recognize that you being you is of great service, and then you can create things that leave a lasting legacy. So I hope that's helpful, Pisces. So we did it, folks. We went through every single sign of the zodiac, and I hope this was fun. We spoke about how Bruce Lee's philosophy can work for you, especially in light of the Sagittarius full moon cycle that we're in. Now, remember, whenever we have a Sagittarius transit, you can look back on this presentation and implement some of the advice that Bruce Lee and his philosophy has given us. So I hope this was helpful for everybody. And if you're catching this live, I will see you tomorrow for This Week Astrology at 1 p.m. Eastern. And have a wonderful rest of your Sagittarius full moon cycle. Remember, it ends the 25th of June. But also, remember that this content is evergreen. It's evergreen. Because there'll always be Sagittarius, and we'll always have Bruce Lee's philosophy. Thank you very much, Casimar. You have a good night too. Good night to you, Haley, and anybody else who's watching. And I'll see you soon.